Now, I don't have any real-life footage of the Class 319. This is a Class 769, but of course it used the same body, and we'll mention that in a second. But in the late 1980s, the Class 319 electrical multiple units were built for operation with overhead AC and third rail DC for use on Thameslink services from Bedford to Brighton. They later found use in the northwest of England by Northern trains, and in more recent times 36 have been converted into Class 769. Instead of bi-mode, they have become tri-mode with the addition of a pair of diesel engines. In this Train Sim Classic video, we're going to go back in time to about 2022 for a full run from Blackpool North to Hazel Grove in a Class 319. Firstly, from Blackpool North to Preston using OTS's Northern Electric route. Then Preston to Manchester Piccadilly, taking advantage of the all-new Manchester North West first phase via Bolton. Finally, onto Just Trains and their Midland Main Line with the Hope Valley extension to complete our journey to Hazel Grove. The train standing at platform 5 is the Northern service to Hazel Grove, calling at Leighton, Polton-le-Fylde, Kirkham and Wesham, Preston, Leyland, Buckshaw Parkway, Chorley, Lowestoft, Bolton, Salford Crescent, Deansgate, Manchester Oxford Road, Manchester Piccadilly, Heaton Chapel, Stockport, Davenport, Woodsmore and Hazel Grove. Platform 5 for the 1527 Northern service to Hazel Grove. So you can see Blackpool Tower lurking in the background, so this could only be Blackpool North. Let's quickly get the train set up because we've not got absolutely loads of time to do this. We'll get the doors open. First of all the T, but then we'll press there. Now we need to also get the GSMR set up as well. So we are to Hotel 01. And I happen to know it's 895, the last 3 digits of the next signal. And we also need to get the destination display as well. I've got a mod in there, so we are at least going to have Hazel Grove showing on the front instead of Piccadilly, which it kind of defaults to, or it defaulted to when the scenario was loaded up. So Hazel Grove, we'll get that confirmed. And we'll just quickly as well sort this out. So tail lights off and day headlights are on. Then we have got a actually we'll put ourselves into guard operated as well. Switch the DRA off. That should be about okay. See Hazel Grove on the front now. So if you're familiar with Blackpool branches on Tradesome World, of course this is incredibly different. And this is set in the last few years where electrification has come into being. So considering doing a through run, I did consider at first doing this as a 323 because of course in the current timetable the services from Blackpool North go to Manchester Airport, but the problem was that the 323 in the game, particularly the northern one, if you put the reskin up for that, the sounds of it are absolutely awful, and I just couldn't bring myself to driving it. So if we kind of go back in time to round about, we're setting this roughly at about 2022 because I think the Hazel Grove services from Blackpool North stopped in round about 23, I think. And it's a nice excuse to drive the 319 anyway. It's a nice old train to drive. And I've got Sam TSE's sound mod installed as well. That's worth having. Of course, he's more recently done the sounds for the Evero on the Class 805 on TSW for All Aboard Studios. This is the Train Sim TV OTS, I think would be perhaps a way of calling it. Really, it's the OTS route, the OTS Northern Lines electric. Did I not put Control and R? Ah, guard operated. Now we've got the right thing in. So yeah, so we've got OTS for the Northern Electric, and very nicely done as well. This is a revamped version of the original route that they produced, and of course it's got the Alan Thomson simulation overhead line pack in as well, so it does feel accurate in terms of the modern look to this route with accurate new style OHLE. And then for the second part we'll move on to the very new Manchester Northwest network, and we'll take that from Preston through to Manchester Piccadilly, and then for part 3 we'll use the Just Trains Middle and Main Line to get us through to Hazel Grove. But I've seen a video from Don Coffey of doing this service the other way actually, from Hazel Grove through to Blackpool North, so really fancied the idea of just doing a full length route like this. I kind of wanted to do it the other way as well, because the video I did with the 802 the other day was obviously going from Piccadilly to Preston, so we're going to do this in reverse, as it were. So coming towards Bolton the Fylde. And I'll try and keep the same, to kind of with a sense of continuity, I'll try and keep the same unit number in from Preston through to Manchester Piccadilly as well, and throughout the journey, for anybody eagle-eyed enough to notice. Originally OTS had their own website for a while, but now everything's uploaded to the TrainSim community website. So again, there's one or two add-ons needed, but essentially it is completely and utterly free. Trying to remember actually, without pressing the button. Yeah, there we go. O button will do it. Yeah, I thought I don't need to actually press it with the mouse key. There we go. So we're guard operated now. So Kirkham and Wesham is next. Of course, the Blackpool North to Manchester Airport services are operated either by 323s or the Civity units, the 331s. Not even totally sure I've actually run this since the revamp. Revamp was done of this route a couple of years ago. I think you've got a little bit of the Blackburn branch represented as far as Bamber, I think I'm right in saying. Does make use of some custom assets along the way, and I think that combined with the Armstrong Powerhouse vegetation pack, which I think is kind of in evidence as well, makes this quite nice to do. I've slightly changed the era because I think the default scenario for this is, I think it's 2019, so it's kind of Virgin era, but I wanted a bit of consistency so that we are in Avanti era, so that's why I'm saying this is loosely 2022, because of course 2021 or a bit earlier, and you would still be potentially, I didn't really want to do the COVID era, so kind of saying about 2022. I don't know 100% that the 319s were still running. I think they were. I think they were still running at that stage. about half an hour run the bit to Preston. And of course, in theory, that's where the scenario would end. And that's always frustrated me with Train Sim Classic, because you don't want to be just doing part of a run. It's quite a nice, satisfying feeling to think that you are going to take the train through to its actual proper conclusion. And I think when you hear all the station names at the very start, and then you kind of think, that's now possible in Train Sim Classic, I think that's really good. I think the reason why this Hazel Grove service got kind of cut back, as it were, or at least they're all running to Manchester Airport, I think it was just because of the struggles a few years back with kind of maintaining any semblance of normality with the timetable. I think not running them through that section through from Piccadilly through to Stockport just helped to streamline things a little bit. Used to get an early morning, I think it was Stoke to Blackpool as well, but I think that's been left by the wayside as well. I think I've got my headphones on a little bit on the quiet side, so I can just about hear it, but I hope it's coming through nice and clearly for you on the video. Kirkham and Wesham coming up. Not totally sure if you're supposed to pronounce it with Wesham. Is it more Kirkham and Wesham? I'm not totally sure on that. I think there we've got the Blackpool South branch coming in on the right. I don't know whether, am I right in thinking the track might even be laid through to Blackpool South, but I don't think scenery has been done, so it was always really nice to be able to do a full run out of Blackpool South on Train Sim World and having the Pleasure Beach on there as well. It's good fun. I think just before COVID as well, there was a grand plan for Great Central to be running a Blackpool North to Euston train with Class 90s, and they were all painted out. I think they'd started the driver training runs, and I think they even built an office especially for it at Blackpool, but then COVID came about and they kind of backed out from it at that point. Yeah, it's a nice old model, this 319 from Armstrong Powerhouse. Of course, there was one made available by Steam as well, by DTG originally as well. This is much more the superior version. Currently 2 minutes late due to a late running Blackpool South Preston service. Anyway, our next stop is Preston. I mean, ironically, I think on the TSW version, I can't remember that many times I've done a stopping service out of Blackpool North. I've tended to more likely to be doing the one from Blackpool South. Now, there isn't a combined scenario that's been done for all three, not with this timing anyway, so I've had to sort of mess around a little bit with RW tools, or TS tools as it's sometimes called. I thought I pressed that in time, didn't I? That was the problem with coming out of the cab. I think I missed it. I think momentarily as well, I'm so used to pressing the Q button, but on Armstrong Powerhouse it's actually E to cancel out the DSD. Anyway, we didn't completely stop, so I think that's okay. Yeah, it goes off at regular intervals. I think there is a way of switching it off actually, but that I can't remember. That is one of the good things that, well, there's many good things about TSW, but one of the great things is you do actually hear the alarms, the AWS and TPWS and you know, all sorts of stuff from outside the cab as well. And I think when you don't get absolutely any alert for it on the screen, then it's an absolute nuisance with Train Sim Classic when you can't hear it. And this is, I think this is Selwick. I don't think I've ever stopped a train there on either TSW or Train Sim Classic. I think it's not, it doesn't have a frequent stopping service. So 158. So we might have a slight ambiguity with the northern liveries. I think that's one of the older northern ones. I think I'm right in saying, but you'll have to just excuse me for that a little bit. this is a nice little route in its own right, well worth downloading. And as I say, it's OTS Northern Electric. I think it's the second version of this. Is it 2.1? But available on Train Sim Community. But it just felt a little bit incomplete. I don't mean the route. I just mean doing a service like this, starting off from Blackpool North on a Hazel Grove service, but only taking it as far as Preston. So it's lovely now that we can do the whole route. And I'm maybe a little bit obsessional about the idea of doing full runs, but I think there's something quite magical about being able to do a full service. Even something as perhaps as non-glamorous as Blackpool North to Hazel Grove. And it's nice to be able to see Blackpool branches in its modern version as well. I mean, I absolutely love the Train Sim World one that Just Trains did, but of course that's a very different era, very, very different feel to it. That's the 55 reminder, and we are approaching Preston now. Whilst we're on the subject of TSW, of course, we're going to have another route. I think it's going to be coming out very, very soon now, whereby you can actually do, again, British Rail Blue era, but doing Crewe to Preston. So from Just Trains, it'll be Crewe to Carlisle, as well as sort of Crewe to Blackpool as well, if you want. And if somebody introduces a more modern timetable for Crewe to Preston as well at some point, and I'm sure that will happen, then it'll be possible ultimately to do a full ride from London Euston to Carlisle, which will be absolutely immense. So you've got a church on the right there, but that's not the major church that we're looking out for. You're going to see the huge one coming in on the left, whose name's completely deserted me at this precise moment. Is it not Walbert? It's something like that. You can't see it from this angle. Yeah, there you go. That might be a custom build, I'm not sure. Need to get a bit of brakes on. Get down to 25. We are signalled into platform 6. Slightly getting uphill, downhill as well, so keep an eye on those brakes. Another 319 coming out. For many years, and of course, you know, sort of in the, well, even fairly recently, only, you know, even 10 years ago, it was necessary to change over power at Blackpool from electric, from diesel into electric. And of course, you know, back in the day, the old Euston, when they were local hauls, used to be electric hauled as far as Preston, and then they moved into diesel power for the last part of the journey. This is using the Alan Thomson simulation Preston as well, which is kind of ultimately much more superior than the one that we had on the West Coast Main Line over Shat. So 1553 and platform 6. So we're just completing loading at Preston. Departure is scheduled to be 1555. Just a quick blast down the West Coast Main Line briefly, because we are then across towards Bolton. But first of all, this blast down the West Coast Main Line, and we'll be stopping at Leyland. Don't know whether that is a little fault of this route, maybe, because no, we're okay. It's clear to yellow. I have noticed since I've recorded this, or started recording it and preparing for it, there's a 323 by the way, and a 6-car unit, and there's absolutely nothing wrong whatsoever with the model of the train particularly, but the sounds on it are absolutely dreadful. But yeah, since I've started preparing for this video, one thing I have observed is that there is a through route now available, or at least there is a 3-part scenario. We're okay with green here, available from Hazel Grove through to Blackpool, so it's worth just comparing that with the Don Coffey video, which is quite excellent to see, and just make that comparison. So although it kind of indicates we could go at 125 miles an hour, of course we're not tilting, and in this unit really we're pretty much top speed. I'm trying to remember actually, is it 75 or is it, no, it just say 100 mile an hour actually in this. Kind of forgetting of course these were built for pretty fast running down the Midland Main Line. these could motor away. Of course, they were on pretty fast services. You could get a fast one. I've been on it a few times from Luton Airport Parkway, because it was kind of a good way rather than driving into London, but coming off the M1, parking up there, and yeah, so again, maybe the odd dodgy signal, but with pressing tab we are at least getting a yellow. Yeah, it's a good way when in the Thameslink days of getting one of these units at going down to London rather than driving all the way towards central London. Used to advertise it on the M1, the fact that there were fast services from Luton Airport Parkway to get to central London. I don't know whether they still do that. Quite close to the edge of the platform, it has to be said. There we are, guard operated, that's what we want. So Buckshaw Parkway is next, then Chorley, Lowestoft, and then Bolton before Salford Crescent, Deedsgate and Manchester Oxford Road, Manchester Piccadilly. And then we'll pick up the third piece of DLC on the Hope Valley line to take us in towards Hazel Grove via Stockport. Trying to work out if that was a red signal in front of us, but it's actually the red bridge that was confusing me there. Yeah, so here we are branching away from the West Coast Main Line. Of course, if you were carrying on down there, you would be going off towards Wigan and Warrington, towards Crewe. This is Exton Junction, I do believe. I think that's pronouncing it correctly anyway. I would have assumed it was Euxton, but I believe it's pronounced as Exton. And then Buckshaw Parkway itself is actually on the Bolton line. And I don't know 100%. I mean, there wasn't so many signalling issues going the other way, but I don't know whether that's just because I've not downloaded the very latest version, or there might be one or two things that do need to be corrected. The one thing I would like to see done in time would be custom signage for the platforms. That'd be quite nice. We've certainly got the northern feel for it with the lampposts. There we go, that's proof now we've got a guard telling us what to do. Yeah, I mean, I thought the sounds originally were pretty good, but these Sam sounds, he's a particular master at the art of producing sounds, has made it even better, and sort of that acceleration away is so memorable. So Chorley is next, and of course this part of the world there's a little bit of a battle in terms of Chorley, and Eccles of course is not a million miles away, so whether you prefer a Chorley cake or an Eccles cake is very much open to debate. I couldn't tell you the difference between the two, and I'm sure they're both very nice. But Chorley is our next stop. I just love how he's modelled this section here, and that's not easy to put in. It gives you a little chance really just to savour the stations and the line side just in a little bit more detail when you're on a stopping service like this. But I remember when I first watched the Don Coffey video of Hazel Grove to Blackpool North, I remember thinking then, wouldn't it be great if we could do that as a full run in train sim? Well, now we can. I know some people prefer it to be all merged together as one run, but in some ways, and although you're watching this video now as being one complete run, it's quite nice to actually do it in stages, as it were. Again, using existing assets, you know, there's nothing custom about this, but I think making good use of what's available, even down to the car park, the kind of the ramp going up as well behind, and you can see like an old shed that was presumably part of a goods yard in times gone by. So Horwich Parkway is next. Really must remember to get this chair oiled at some point. That's the one thing you can always hear on my videos, is the sound of the creaking chair. It would be nice if, I know we have Manchester Airport in the game already in terms of Train Sim World, but it would be quite nice if we got it for Train Sim Classic. I know there was a plan from Alan Thomson Simulation that they are doing Crewe to Manchester for Train Sim Classic, so it would be nice if that actually sees the light of day. And it's also part of Ryan's plans as well. He's got something like a 9-part plan, and who knows how much of that he'll end up doing, because I should imagine each process is pretty time consuming, and it's whether the interest is still there after such a long effort. I don't know how long continuously he's been working on this to bring this out, but in itself it's quite a big project. I think I got caught out by the DVD again by being outside. I thought when I'd seen the alert in the corner that I'd managed to press it in time, but clearly not. I think that's the second time, isn't it, in the video that I've been caught out by that. I think the secret is that if I'm going to show a flyby, we'll wait until we've heard that DVD sound going off first, and then we know we've got a few seconds before the next one. It's not a route I know massively well, but I just think it's such an important interconnecting route, and it immediately opens up the Transpennine services as well as a whole plethora of different northern service possibilities. There's another 323. So we're not quite all stations. Yeah, you've got Adlington Lancs as opposed to Adlington Cheshire, and Blackrod as well before you get to Horwich Parkway. So maybe that emergency brake application is going to put us a little bit behind on in terms of timekeeping. But I think with good use of foliage, with the track texturing that we have here, then this shows off Train Sim Classic that there are bits of it that are still alive and well and still very playable. And the route around Christmas that was done as well, Max Trax's Leeds route, Leeds Northwest is it called, something like that, or Leeds North, that's got the whole shed load of custom assets as well, and you really get that West Yorkshire mill feeling with the buildings there. We'll get some breaks on Harwich Parkway. To get the brakes on a bit more sharper, I think. Panicking for a while, but in fact it turned out to be virtually a flawless stop. All in the planning, obviously. Again, you know, no custom assets, but great use of, I don't know if that's one individual structure that he's used there, or whether that's a bit of kit bash, but very nicely done. The same with the footbridge and the walkway as well. So making excellent use of existing assets that are available. So low stop next. I think that's a correct pronunciation, but if I'm wrong on that, you'll need to tell me. And then after that, it is Bolton, and then we're kind of running through quite a few stations then before we get to Salford Crescent, and then we're not far off then from that section into Piccadilly. Now that was Bolton's ground again. I did read a comment somewhere where they said that by substituting Bolton's ground for Old Trafford was pretty much blasphemous, which amused me greatly. And I think that would apply equally if you were a Bolton Wanderers supporter or a Manchester United supporter. But I'm just glad there's a football ground there, because it's one of those small little details. I say small, I mean it's relatively close to the railway line, I suppose, so it was unavoidable, but somebody could have just stuck a warehouse in, or something that just clearly wasn't a football ground, so at least it's a representation of it, which I'm kind of happy with. I mean, I was a bit upset with the Alan Thomson simulation Manchester Airport commuter route that they missed out on Edgeley Park at Stockport, because that is so close to the track. That was quite a major landmark to miss out on, really. And again, worth having a read of the various phases that Ryan has got potentially in store, and includes things like the line going off to Rochdale, for example, and the line going off to Wigan. I mean, if there's one thing I would really hope that, I was talking about the Crewe Chester thing, the Crewe Piccadilly thing. I'd love that to come out, because apart from anything else, you just kind of get the impression that the Train Sim World Alan Thomson Manchester Airport commuter route, it doesn't seem as though there's any plans whatsoever at the moment for it to be extended to Crewe, which I think is a great shame, but it remains a section of line that is missing. Not least as well in terms of the West Coast Main Line as well, the route going off from Stockport through to College and Stafford via Macclesfield and Stoke-on-Trent as well. I mean, we obviously have Crewe to Stoke and Stafford and College, but we're missing that bit between Stockport and Kidsgrove. Love to see it essentially in Train Sim World. But failing that, then at least if we could have it in Train Sim Classic at some point. Easy for me to say, of course, because such things are way beyond what I would ever have the time or the patience to do. So Bolton is next. I think the old Bolton Wanderers stadium was a lot closer to the centre of Bolton than the current one. Of course, that used to be Burnden Park. I think I might have been there many years ago for a cup tie. Involving Stoke, I think, in the League Cup many years ago. So we'll be mindful of the fact that it is 20 miles an hour coming into Bolton itself, and there is this sharp bend. Now, I mentioned at the start, I showed you a little picture of the 769, which of course is the variant that was derived from this 319. And it was the one time in my life I've ever done a train from Oh, you see, that's where it fooled me, because it says 20 here, and yet it's telling me that's slightly set slightly wrongly, I think. But the one time when I was on a 769, it was from excuse me, from Wigan Walgate. It was supposed to be into Manchester, but we never quite made it. We got as far as Bolton, and then the driver changed the mode and couldn't get it going again, and we ended up, I think we got a little bit past Bolton, but we ended up coming back into Bolton and completely broke down. It'd be lovely to have a custom model, but it's pretty accurate. Again, another double-headed 323. Really is a busy section of line. And again, good to see a bit of detail above there as well, representing Bolton itself. And you can see, I presume that's clearly, that must be the bus station. So I'll respond to the guard. So we are fast now for the 8 miles or so into Salford Crescent. So in terms of the actual stations that we'll be passing through, it'll be Moses Gate, Farnworth, Kearsley, and then Clifton before Salford Crescent. But Salford Crescent our next stop. And as I said in the last video, oh crumbs. Sorry about that. That was a bit dramatic, wasn't it? Just threw me my keyboard up in the air, but I'm glad to say it still works. But anyway, ignoring that surprise, as I was saying in the last video, it's brilliant to get a nice surprise. And this was a present really that I opened up last Saturday and saw that it was available. And there's no advance notice really, no screenshots, no warning that this was being worked on. As far as I'm aware anyway, there might have been somewhere in some quarters, but it just came, as far as I'm concerned, completely out of the blue, which is absolutely lovely. I can remember many years ago now, similar thing happening with Microsoft Train Simulator when I think somebody did Crew to Liverpool via Runcorn, and again it was a big surprise. But the detail obviously just gets better and better, and if you look at the videos, there might be one or two still left on YouTube of what Microsoft Train Simulator looked like, and it was, you know, pretty good back in the day, but this is an improvement, and obviously Train Sim World even more so, because that's at times almost photorealistic. that's the first time I've done that in this part. That's what I was trying to do. But as I've said before, there's some brilliant route builders, and I mean, you look at that network that Nicholas produced with. He produced Charing Cross and Cannon Street down to Sevenoaks and Tonbridge, and I think he's got things like the Hayes branch on there, and you've got the that loop as well. So you do Cannon Street to Cannon Street, and great skills. Unfortunately, I've loaded 2 scenarios up so far, and I've more or less got all the reskins already installed, which is a great relief, because that's always half the problem with Train Sim Classic. When you spend a whole evening just trying to find some of the reskins and getting them installed, making sure the geos work. This is a really nice unit to drive as well. That's if you can avoid throwing your keyboard about. I'm really enjoying how busy this scenario is too. This is a default one as well that comes with the pack when you download it. There's just such a regular array of services between Manchester, Bolton and Preston. I guess the quickest one will be the Transpennine one. And it's worth saying as well, I mean, this is going to Manchester Piccadilly, but we do also have Manchester Victoria, because it's kind of, this is tagged onto the Chat Moss route as well. So if you've got the Chat Moss route, then that's another option open to you. This time you get the impression these are more like genuine signals on the approach to Salford Crescent. And again, Salford itself has undergone a massive rebuild and regeneration over the last few years, and I think, well, it's really Coronation Street country. That was kind of what it was based on, the old cobbled terrace streets, but it's a whole lot different now. So based on the fact that was double yellow, then we are, I think, at least cleared into the platform at Salford Crescent. You can see some of the kind of the newer buildings that have built up. Of course, it's a great media city area now. You've got studios for BBC and ITV very prominently in Salford, and BBC Radio as well. Can't work out what the speed limit's supposed to be on this coming up. Kind of got one on top of each other. Right, I see. It's 40 and then 30. I have got that just about right then. So this is coming in to stop at Salford Crescent. Again, it's not an easy job doing these walkways and connecting everything up together like this. See that going over, and he's used the some of the old Liverpool, Manchester like booking office buildings and stuff, which is pretty decent. Try to miss the guard signal for clearance into Deansgate. Yeah, so we are stopping at Deansgate, Manchester Oxford Road, Manchester Piccadilly. Used to be that to get to the Granada Studios, that's what you would get off at Deansgate. Of course, there was a time when, I don't know whether you still can go around the Coronation Street set nowadays, but that used to be a thing many years ago, and you could get off at Deansgate for that. So before that we'll have the section as well that joins up with Manchester Victoria, and you've the canal network and the tram lines all around us as well. Now I have to say, when I mean, this is obviously, you've got the much better modern catenary that is now in use, but I do remember when Dovetail Games first released Liverpool Lime Street to Manchester Piccadilly via Warrington, and this was one of the better sections actually, and you were kind of amazed by the amount of custom assets that they built. And I think over time, it was the same with King's Cross Peterborough. I think there is a bridge missing here, by the way, on the Alan Thomson route. There is a little section missing there. I don't know whether that's just because I've got a patch missing or something I've not downloaded. But you felt there's a real detail that went into this little section and through to Manchester Piccadilly. And some of the more recent routes that they then went on to produce for Train Sim Classic, that detail over time seemed to kind of diminish a little bit. You think of like the Midland Main Line. I mean, now we have a good version of it with the Armstrong Powerhouse enhancement pack, but the original route itself left something to be desired. But you couldn't fault the quality of the buildings along here. So this is coming into Deansgate, and Oxford Road itself is kind of better situated for the very centre of Manchester rather than Piccadilly itself. and don't think we've got any trams included on this particular scenario, but yeah, you've got a little bit of the tram network as well. Yeah, you've kind of got a bit of the canal network. It's an interesting little section, is this? Yeah, I think that main road there, that would be where you would go off to Granada Studios in the distant past. I don't know what's there now. I don't know whether they demolished all the old buildings that used to be there. The fascinating bit about this next section as well is it's also frequented by a lot of freight as well that's come from the kind of the Trafford Park Freightliner depot and stuff like that. You have all that, and with a whole plethora of passenger services weaving the way through, and the Transpennine services as well as the northern stopping trains. It's quite a slow little section, as you can see. We've got 20 coming up just before Oxford Road. But I love the amount of trains that we've seen. It's been a very, very busy scenario, which again feels absolutely prototypical. Plenty of 319s in evidence as well. I'd like to have used a bit of 319 footage in the video in real life at the start, but sadly that's something I haven't recorded. I can't recall even VHS days recording 319s. Very interesting station. I've no idea architecturally what you would call it. I've always thought, I don't know, just something of an Eastern European feel about it to me. And I did wonder whether it was kind of a product of somebody flamboyant in the 60s or something, but I think it goes back quite a way before there then. So I think if you're actually driving this particular scenario and you were doing it per time as downloaded from the pack, then this in theory is a Manchester Airport service, so you would actually finish it up at Piccadilly. But as we are going on to Hazel Grove, then we do have a little bit more to do. Thought I'd been caught out by the vigilance device again. Easy for me to say. So 185 coming into view. Again, fun little train to drive as well. Now in real life, platform 13 and platform 14 absolutely thronged with passengers, and this time of the day would be incredibly busy. And for that reason, they don't even allow everybody to actually go down onto the platforms. They keep you in kind of a holding position a little bit above, in a kind of like a waiting room area. Being slightly too cautious here, aren't you? You can see the 4-car marker over there. Well, there's no doubt about it that the Manchester Piccadilly that we have on this Just Trains Middle and Main Line route, if you've got the Hope Valley or the Peak District part to it, is absolutely magnificent. But just worth actually just having a quick wander over to have a look at how good it is, because you've seen the concourse in the Train Sim World version, but this is even something else, has to be said. So again, and I know we've got only like kind of 2D models of the depths of the shops, but that's okay. We've got upper crust there, and you've got that massive timetable display, which is kind of even better than it is on the Train Sim World one. Burger King concourse and the entrance over there. So yeah, really nicely done, and lovely to see Manchester Piccadilly looking so busy as well. Quickly go towards 25, and then it's kind of over the points, but this is an interesting section as well. You can see that big Network Rail building in the background, and again the Manchester scenery looking excellent. The one thing missing on this route and the TSW one is very much the Etihad Stadium. And you can see those college university buildings on the right. So I mean, that's in more detail, I would say, even than the TSW one. You've got the bus station, or the old bus station, and those football pitches are all in there as well. I'm not going to pull out to the camera when we go past Longsight Depot, because that's kind of a known place where the route just dumps on you. So I'm not going to give the game the opportunity of doing that. It's very, very frame rate intensive. Of course, we have already passed the junction going off to Guy Bridge and Hadfield and Glossop and Staley Bridge. And I was talking about it being a really intensive freight route, and of course the 66 waiting there, no doubt bound for Trafford Park Freightliner depot. I'll keep an eye on those signals as well, because we are signalled onto the slow lines to stop at Levenshulme. Well, actually we're not stopping at Levenshulme, we're just stopping at Heaton Chapel, but we are signalled onto the slow lines for that part of the journey. So I'm not sure about that cross-country 170 totally, but maybe the scenario creator didn't have the Voyager perhaps, or maybe he just preferred the look of the 170, because the Voyager in Train Sim Classic is still not the very best. I know there is supposed to be an Alan Thomson one. It might be, I don't know, is it being done by Imbu, the same people who did the 185? I don't know how far that is off. This is Slade Lane Junction, off the right to Manchester Airport, to Wilmslow via Style, down to Crewe. Amazing how much trouble that particular junction's caused, both I think in this version of the game and in Train Sim World as well. I believe there is a patch going to be released at some point. So this is Levenshulme. Not stopping at Levenshulme, but we are stopping at Heaton Chapel. And again, really good detail in terms of the OHLE, which is again pretty unique for this area. And I'm not 100% sure about this, but I have a feeling that it's a lot smoother than it was when it was originally released as Hope Valley. Well, I think when they added in, is that the McVitie's factory on the left as well? That was a bit of a disappointment actually, that we didn't have a custom model of that building on the Train Sim World one. Okay, you can see a lot of details gone in terms of getting really good, accurate bridges as well. Those were kind of reconstructed special bridges to house the catenary and the 1960s West Coast Main Line electrification. Now, I've never got off here in real life, but I just love this station actually, both on TSW and here, because again, look at the sheer detail that's gone on there. Four Heatons, connections, sandbatch, all those old buildings. It's a great old structure. You've got that amazing sign over there. You've got the old school one over here, Heaton Chapel and Heaton Moor. And then you've got all these gardens and the foliage and everything. And then you've got, we've got a 158 coming through on a Norwich service. Norwich to Liverpool Lime Street probably. Then you've got this ticket office as well, which you can gain access to. Oh, we've even got the Manchester Evening News as well, with the news agents. So very nicely done. Yeah, we're still waiting for our departure point at Heaton Chapel as well. But that was one of the real bits of quality about this add-on. I mean, if you own the Matlock branch as well, and you go down there, again, all the stations have got tremendous detail. Oh, you've even got some information going on here as well, and it's not pixelated as well. You can actually read it. Two members of Sustainable Living in the Heatons, a local community group, explore the possibility of developing an art project on the northbound platform in June 2011. And then you look at the stonework as well as we're coming out. Again, it's not completely clean, and really does look good. So we do have a single yellow, so we have to be a little bit mindful of that approaching Stockport. Ah, we've changed to green, we're okay. I could listen to that sound all day long. Is it another cross-country working that's about to overtake us? So just modify this scenario slightly, because it started actually in one of the terminus platforms at Manchester Piccadilly, so just for continuity's sake I've put it out onto platform 13. We are coming towards Heaton Norwich Junction, and coincidentally, and I was watching a video yesterday of the once a week parliamentary service. I think it still runs on a Saturday between Staley Bridge and Stockport via Denton. There it is, that's Heaton Norwich Junction over there on the right. That was Heaton Norwich Junction signal box. I think basically they have to run that every week, otherwise they'd have to close the line. That goes, stops at Denton, I think, along the way. It's one of those curious little trains that I think I certainly find fascinating. As we go over the incredible Stockport Viaduct. So we're coming in on platform 0. And you've got the Holiday Inn on the left, and the multi-storey car park as well, which I think on the Trainton World one they actually put, instead of putting NCP for the car park, they put ATS, if I remember rightly. And okay, you can obviously, in the TSW one, you can actually go inside the concourse, but it's still nicely done. There's the Holiday Inn, and then there's I think there's a fitness place over there. And one thing as well that is missing on the TSW one, and if you've ever gone over the viaduct and looked out to the right, then you'll have seen this thing here, the Hat Museum. So I just love to see little bits of detail like that included. We've got that cross-country service leaving. I think there's a Pendolino coming in as well. Ah, it's in the Pride colours. Very nice. We are green, so we're okay there. Yeah, it's a very intricate little area. And some of the stuff you just don't see as a driver, but it's interesting to see it being still included in the game for accuracy's sake. I'm trying to remember if I'm sure there is a football ground, but I think I've just missed it. Have I? Yeah, I think it's... No, there it is. There's Edgeley Park, which again was missing from the TSW one. So we are taking the branch now off to the Hope Valley line. Northern 158 as well, waiting to gain access. That's a common signal, I think, to be stopped at, actually, and to gain access to the West Coast Main Line into Stockport. So I'm sure drivers are very much taught that that's a signal to look out for, that you could have to stop. Now we've got the 40, but again it's not too far to go until we come to Davenport platform 1. I think I don't know if it was Lord or Colonel Davenport, but I think he was a big landowner when this area was constructed and owned all the land around here, and very often these people were able to insist on a station being built to serve them. I always thought with the Trainton World version that, you know, aside from the obvious thing about not going to Crewe, which would have been and still remains a great aspiration. I hope that they will do. But the little section to Hazel Grove would have been quite nice. I mean, you know, I'm not saying they need to extend it to Sheffield, but to at least have the Hazel Grove bit in would be good, because there are obviously services that go to and from Hazel Grove. And again, you can just see the level of detail that DTG Just Trains have done. I think this was actually created by Pennine Pacer. So I think I'm right in saying we've got Davenport, Woodsmoor and then Hazel Grove. So we are coming towards the end of our journey. And we do have another bit of freight action going on. Double-headed as well. So I'm really glad I decided not to just end this scenario at Manchester Piccadilly. It deserved this last section, I think. So I think Woodsmoor would be where you would get off for Stepping Hill Hospital. The buildings for that will come into view pretty soon, I think, on the left. Again, you can see another custom bridge. I mean, it would have been so easy to have put in reasonably accurate bridges, but again, because it's a payware product, Just Trains have a bit of a obsession with getting detail right, which is, from my point of view, is amazing to see. Yeah, I think this is yeah, some of the hospital buildings. You see the Pennines in the background there, actually. So the final stage of the journey is coming up. So I hope very much you've enjoyed the video, and I think it's brilliant to be able to do a full run from Blackpool North to Hazel Grove. And as I said, this isn't something that's in the current timetable, and the 319s obviously don't run along here now, so this is kind of circa 2022. But I think to be able to do it end to end is magnificent, and thank you very much to Ryan for creating that first phase of his Manchester Northwest route, which takes in the line via Bolton between Manchester Piccadilly and Victoria to Preston, so a much needed part of the network. And you know, in theory we could now do a full Transpennine run from Manchester Airport through to Glasgow as well, if you take it as partly using Train Sim World. But really enjoyed it, and it's been quite a long ride all in all, with stopping at so many stations, but tremendously enjoyed it. So we'll come into Hazel Grove for our final stop. This is where the electrification ends as well. So I think I'm right in saying in the current timetable, as it goes, the only trains that stop at Hazel Grove are actually on the Buxton route, so they are actually diesels, so there aren't electric traction, but I'm sure that will change at some point. So again, needless to say, plenty more detail in and around the station. Just even the signal boxes are a work of art as well. They certainly went to a massive amount of detail to get lots of things right with this route. Simplicity at its best, just cars. Well, as far as I'm concerned, this is detail at its best from Just Trains. So enjoyed the run, and thank you very much for watching. If you've enjoyed the video and you haven't done so before, it'd be tremendously appreciated if you'd like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much for all the ongoing support, really appreciated. And if you get the chance, join us on Sundays at 5 PM for our live stream. We do 4 hours of Train Sim World action from 5 PM. I think we've just got one last thing coming in. We've got a 185 coming through, not stopping of course. So there we go. Thank you very much, and until next time, from Powerflower Trains and Planes, for now it's goodbye.